Hello, my friends. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. Joe Pometto Law live. Uh, 8:01. What's the date today? October the 9th. Coming at you with law, sovereign citizens, auditors, First Amendment, free men, tax protesters. You name it, I got it. You want to talk about a recent case verdict? We can talk about a case verdict. You want to talk about the Supreme Court? We can chat about the Supreme Court. Keep the conspiracy theories to a minimum, my friends. Coming on here, I don't want to get knocked off from YouTube. No bad words, not many trolls, but otherwise, everything is welcome. Whatever you would like to talk about. Do you want to talk about politics? Do you want to talk about impeachment? Do you want to talk about the latest court cases, the O.J. Simpson trial, the Amber Geiger verdict? What's going on with sovereign citizens in my videos? Or I will just field regular old legal questions that you may have. I mostly practice in the field of criminal defense. I also do personal injury and employment law. I have extensive experience in landlord-tenant law, contract disputes, small court claims, and drafting of contracts themselves. Again, mostly in what's up, original Chihuahuan, my man. What is up? What is up? Welcome back, Kelly. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you being here. Number one on the list, first into the room. Let's see, what do we got here? I think we have a suggestion for a conversation already. I have a teacher, Texas teacher pension. Can't get Social Security. My ex just died. Can I get some of his Social Security benefits? You know, I get a ton of these questions, workers' comp, pension related, Social Security related. I have to be honest. We don't go over that in law school. You asked me a property question. You asked me something about wills and estates, which I don't know much about, but I took it in law school. I took tax law. Do you want the definition of income? Okay, all this stuff we learn in law school. I don't learn about pensions. We don't learn about Social Security, disability, etc. So my two beagles, I don't know if you can get some of his Social Security benefits. I believe that you can. And I'm not telling you that as a lawyer, but I know people who have survival Social Security benefits from a spouse. I don't know the process, how much money you get, what you'd be eligible for, but I do encourage you to find your local Social Security office. Many of them you can walk into or you can schedule an appointment. They have large offices in the downtown areas of a major metropolitan city, and they also have satellite offices which you can go to. Good evening, good evening, good evening, my friends. Thank you, Dana, for hopping in. How about the recent SCOTUS ruling on using self-defense against the police? Sir, 16241A, do you know the case name or citation for that? And I will take a look at it. I never understood why hospitals and doctors think they have free right to sue and take your stuff, and can a lawyer fight them? Don't they already get enough money? Absolutely, a lawyer can fight them. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff out there. I get a lot of calls from people who have legitimate legal grievances or legitimate lawsuits or things that they could take into court, but the amount of money is so low, it's not worth it for an attorney to take it on a contingency. And most regular people, frankly, don't have the money to pay an attorney hourly. I'll tell you, I do some pro se work. I help many of my family and friends, and I don't charge them a penny. Whether it's a fast track divorce or a criminal court hearing. But again, people think all attorneys are rich. I'm not rich. I'm not rich. I'm probably middle class. I hope to someday be rich. I would like to be rich. I'm trying to get there. Some attorneys are, but I'm a solo practitioner. I make enough money to get by. I have a car, I have a house, and I do okay. But for me to devote a large portion of my time to helping people for free, it's not feasible. It's really tough. Bartlett versus Nieves video. I never understood. SS keeps giving me the runaround. Joe, FYI, 2 p.m. Hawaii. Hello, man, you guys are 6 hours behind. I got to come visit you, Chihuahuan. Are people legally allowed to defend their rights from being infringed to the extent of using lethal force? I thought that was the point of the Second Amendment. So for zero PH given, here's what I'll tell you, Zero. Yeah, it depends on the context. It depends. Are people legally allowed to defend their rights from being infringed to the extent of using civil force? Absolutely. It depends on the context. Okay. One thing that people, it's the law. The law is not black and white. The law is not black and white. The words that the law is written on are black and white, but there's all kinds of gray in between those words that you can't see. And what I mean by that is everything is a case-by-case basis. And this is something I got to explain to my clients all the time. So whether one jury is going to find that you used lethal force as self-defense or defense of your property, you could take the same facts to another jury or another judge and get a different result. Okay, the law is a lawyer's sword and a lawyer's shield. That is our weapons of combat, no matter which side you're on. I'm a defense attorney when I do criminal defense, and I'm a plaintiff's attorney or a prosecutor when I do personal injury. Okay, and the law is a weapon, and the attorneys battle each other with the law. Okay, and the judge is supposed to be in the middle, but the attorney who can convince the judge to come to their side is the winner. So yeah, as far as lethal force, let's say, for instance, the police take a life unlawfully, you can file a civil lawsuit, an infringement of your civil rights, and get monetary damages. And if the district attorney or prosecutor so deems, they can bring criminal charges against that police officer. The same is true of a civilian interaction. Two civilians get into a fight. One of them uses lethal force. The person who was shot and killed, their family can sue the individual who shot them on their behalf for a wrongful death, an assault and battery, unintentionally or intentionally causing someone's death. And then, but the criminal law is always the realm of the state or the United States government. Only prosecutors can bring criminal complaints. Well, Zero. A lot of times the people don't want to be kidnapped end up getting kidnapped anyway if the police have probable cause that they broke the law. I practice in Pennsylvania. Fitter, I did get that video. I haven't looked at it yet, but I will. Please use this email to send me emails. Okay, I'm typing it in. Please use this email, newsletter@pomettolaw.com. That other email is my business email, so I glanced at it, but I was doing other things at the time. I will get to your email in a more timely manner if you send to me at this email, which I believe is the email that I have listed in the descriptions of my videos. I practice in Pennsylvania. Texas has a new law. I think if 5 officers or more pull you over, it is considered domestic terrorism. That's kind of funny. Comes down to the jury, man. You know, I got a question about jury nullification. Okay, and a jury, you know, there's a guy who killed somebody plain daylight, premeditated everything. But the person that he killed was a sex offender who had sexually assaulted, maybe raped. I can't remember. I saw it on a documentary. His child. And this guy, you know, probably lost his mind, got a gun, boom. When he was walking out of the courthouse, this other guy, boom, shot him, killed him. The father went on trial, and he was acquitted of all charges called jury nullification. Jurors have a massive amount of power. Let me send this text message, and I want to address that, the powers of the jury. Bum 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 bum. Boom, 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 boom. Dun, 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 dun. There have been several cases. There was a big case in Texas where a father caught a sex offender raping his child. I imagine there's been multiple cases like that. I know I watched a documentary. It was about jury nullification, where a father killed the assaulter of his child, and the jury acquitted him. He punched him once in the head and killed the man. Grand jury refused to indict, rightly so. Right. So justice is an abstract thing out here in the world. Okay. But that's why, some legal systems in other countries, you don't have an absolute right to a jury, or you don't have a right to a jury in as many instances as you do in the United States of America. In the United States of America, a jury probably has more power than in any other country in the world. And I don't know the legal systems of all other countries, but I do know even in Great Britain and France and some of the major European countries, juries are not used to the extent that they are used in the United States. And in the sense that you will be judged by your peers, by a jury, I think that there's a sense of justice and fairness in that. Now, I have no doubt at all that juries can, and it certainly happens, that juries can be unfair. There is no question to that. But a lot of times when people are convicted of a crime or found liable in a civil suit, okay, sure, the judge, this goes to the sovereign citizen stuff, right? Okay, the judge has the corporate seal, and I recognize, the judge is paid by the state, and maybe even one of the attorneys or the staff are paid by the state, but the judge isn't making the decision. A jury who are basically being paid nothing to take time out of their day and listen to a case are generally the ultimate arbiters of justice in this country. So, say what you want about the American judicial system. I believe that there's a lot of inequalities in it, but I think there's a lot of fairness in it too. Jury nullification lets emotions overshadow the facts. Well, that's one way to look at it. Would you say, for instance, an individual killed the child molester, and he premeditated, and he shot this child, and then let's say this man had raped his child multiple times. Do you think it's justice for the father who then kills that man to go to jail for the rest of his life? Is that justice? I mean, is that justice? Now, we shouldn't promote vigilante justice, okay, but maybe there are some exceptions to vigilante justice. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Play some elevator music or something. I will next time. Sorry, I had to send those texts. Question: if a Leo went to arrest a person, insert gun crime here. Manufacturing a machine gun, 0. Who are you hanging out with? Like, who's your crew, bro? You know what I mean? You can actually make your own guns perfectly legally as long as you keep them to yourself. If you want to sell them, you got to get them registered. Anyway, manufacturing a machine gun. If a Leo wants to arrest a person for the crime, would that officer not be guilty? I'm not familiar with 18 USC 242. Pull it up. Westlaw versus Lexis versus Bloomberg. I tell you, I like Bloomberg News. I've never used it for legal research, but I'm a Westlaw guy, which if I've had family members who actually worked for LexisNexis. How funny is that? But I prefer Westlaw because that's what my legal research and writing teacher, professor in law school, same thing, got me addicted to. So I am addicted to Westlaw. I'm used to the system, Westlaw's ecosystem, just like I use Max. And so I'm a Westlaw guy. I like Westlaw. They keep it simple, and I know what I'm doing. He should be made a hero. Kitty Diddler should be executed. Deprivation of rights under the color of law. Deprivation of rights. Well, I mean, I can speak to that generally. Yeah, if they're actually depriving rights without a lawful reason to do so, even though they're claiming a lawful reason, they should be subject to civil suit and/or punishment, and possibly prosecution under the criminal laws. And the truth of the matter is that we are seeing a lot more criminal prosecutions of police officers than we've seen in the past. So, you have an anti-cop attitude. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, whatever. But I've seen cops tagged with $100 million lawsuits. Now they don't pay it, but they get tagged. And many officers lose their jobs these days when they commit misconduct. I think there's a big push in this country to make sure that the officers comply and act within the realms of the law. And I also recognize that Leo's law enforcement officers have a very, very dangerous job. And, they're out there busting some people who are doing some bad shit. Are you located in Pittsburgh? I would never be able to convict a parent that killed a perpetrator, Dana, and that is what happened. That is what happened. Hey, Joe, are you located in Pittsburgh? You're from Greenfield. I love Greenfield. I love Greenfield. Who is this? Barbecue Bob. Bob, I grew up in the South Hills. I'm sure you're familiar with it, though you East Siders don't come down here too often. Just like them Yinzers that live on the north side, and they don't come down to the South Hills. That's my Pittsburgh accent. I have one anyway. But yes, I lived in Shady Side, which is on the east side of the city, in law school, and I hung out in Squirrel Hill. And Greenfield is probably my favorite city neighborhood because it's very neighborhoody, very sort of suburbia within the tightly packed city itself. Down here, you know what I'm saying, Bob? I love Greenfield. I've hung out there, gone to some bars there. There's a brewery there I've hit up a couple of times. I have some friends from there. Yeah, I always said if I was going to buy a house in the city, it'd probably be Greenfield. I like Squirrel Hill too and Shady Side, but like I said, I'm middle class Pittsburgher down here. Maybe when I make them big bucks, I can move up to Squirrel Hill. So, so huge fan of Squirrel Hill and Greenfield, and the east side of Pittsburgh in general. Like I said, I lived downtown for a year in law school and 2 years in Shady Side. You lived in Squirrel Hill, and perhaps many of you are familiar with the Tree of Life shooting that happened in Pittsburgh. I guess it's been about a year now, where the crazed individual went into a synagogue and murdered multiple people, and a couple of police officers were shot at the same time. That's in Squirrel Hill, which is a beautiful neighborhood. I'm very familiar with the Tree of Life Synagogue. I used to drive past it all the time. I mean, just in that sense. But when I was in Shady Side, I lived close by. Very sad for the city and for the country as a whole. But I'm a big fan of Greenfield. I'm in Arizona, but a person in Cali decides to carry without a CCW, they get arrested. That's a violation of the Second Amendment. I don't need a free speech permit. Zero. Well, sir, the Second Amendment is, so that's what I was saying before. The law is not black and white, even though the words are written in black and white. The law is not black and white. There's gray area in between. Some laws are written to be general, and some laws are written to be more specific. The more general a law is, the more it can be read into. The more specific it is, the less it can be read into. When legislatures or continental congresses create a constitution or laws, when they make it general, they leave it open to the interpretation of the courts. When they make it very specific, the courts are much more hamstrung. And give you an example of that was like mandatory sentencing that became popular in the 70s and 80s. The judges didn't have a lot of freedom on a case by case basis, but when you leave them room, and it depends what you like. But that's true of the Second Amendment, the United States Supreme Court, in all of their all-knowing knowledge and glory. And I'm not here to praise the Supreme Court, though I do believe they have a very difficult job, and I have more respect for them than I do many of the other branches of government, frankly. Because they're not beholden to many of the political influences that sway a member of Congress, right? I mean, somebody in the House of Representatives is almost insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Okay, all they're going to do is everything that they can to keep their seat. But a Supreme Court justice is appointed for life. So they can change their minds. They can do what they want. You know, politics changes every 10 years, every 20 years. Say what you want, but the major issues, et cetera, it all changes. So you have a Supreme Court justice sitting on there for 20 or 30 years. You know, their ideas may change. They may not. Anyway, when it comes to the Second Amendment, the Supreme Court, and we're talking conservative justices, Antonin Scalia has actually held up. He held up, one of the most conservative justices this country has ever seen, held up laws that were challenged under the Second Amendment, which banned gun possession within school zones. There was a challenge to that, okay, and a conservative court upheld the penalties, the criminal penalties for possessing a weapon inside a school zone. So what I'm going to tell you is that reasonable restrictions are allowed to be placed on your right to own a gun, okay, under the Second Amendment and in the United States, and even under a conservative interpretation of the law, of the Constitution itself. I found the best way to get along with police is to act ignorant of the law. Has anybody seen that Dave Chappelle skit? It's so fucking funny. I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle. Excuse my language, but now YouTube's gonna demonetize me. But there was a skit where he says Dave Chappelle's a black guy, and he's got his white friend. I think he named him Todd or something. And he's like, Todd told me to get in the car, and we were going for a ride, and we were smoking a joint, and we were flying. I mean, Todd was doing 80 miles per hour, and then a cop pulled us over, and I was scared to death. I'm shaking in my boots, and Todd, the white guy driving, is perfectly calm. Todd is perfectly calm, and the officer comes up and he says, you were doing 80 in a 60 mile per hour zone. And Todd looks at the officer and says, well, I didn't know I couldn't do that. And the officer said, well, okay, Todd, I'm going to let you off with a warning. I mean, if you guys, you Google that, you can find that skit. It's close to the live one that Dave Chappelle did, where he also, he talks about when he finds a baby in the ghetto. I mean, it's too fucking funny. But acting ignorant of the law, hey, you could do worse. You could do worse. You could do like a sovereign citizen and claim that the law doesn't even apply to you. It's probably a better tactic to say, I don't know the law. Beyond, I mean, that's not a defense. It's not a legal defense. But the officer might be like, okay, might go a little easier on me. I know. Look, man, because I'd have to say your name 100 times, bro. I mean, you want me to say, I'd have to say your name 100 times. You're zero. And that one slipped out. I'm not trying to swear. I am not trying to swear. Bump, ba ba bump, ba ba ba. That's my elevator music. So the Second Amendment, Charles Bronson death wish. Anybody got any additional questions? Does anybody want to call in? I'll take a call. Excuse me. Any of this here is cool to have a Pittsburgh attorney on the YouTube channel. Thanks, Bob. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. So I was in court today, and man, I was in this one courtroom for about 6 or 7 hours today. And let me tell you, I'm just going to give you a general rundown, no names, etc., etc. I got a client. I'm going to give you the factual rundown. All right, the police were investigating him for domestic violence incident. They come to the house, okay, and they put him in cuffs because he's on probation. He would have never gone to jail if he wasn't on probation, but he's got this girl saying that he hit him, that he hit her. Okay, so the police come to the house and they put him in cuffs and they're taking him away to put him in the car. And as they're going through his pockets to put him into the police cruiser, he books it, boom, runs off. Right, it's broad daylight. It's broad daylight. He runs, and I mean, to his credit, my man. See you later, Zero. Thanks for stopping in. My man's running, and he jumps 2 fences, gets over the second fence, and and boom, he tumbles. And I think he was just exhausted at that point. All right, so the cops run him down, and they get him. Okay, they come upon him. He's laying on the ground, wiggling around. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're in handcuffs, bro. Like, that's not the time to run. All right, and he starts like throwing his body weight around. So they pick him up and they try to get him into the cruiser, and he's throwing his body weight around and won't get in. So they slam him into the car. Okay, and he still won't comply. So they put him on the ground. They put the knee in his back. All right. They try. I don't know I don't know the Iggy story, but I wouldn't. This is a common factual scenario. Okay, so he won't get in the car, and they're picking him up, and they're trying. So they bring the paddy wagon around. They're trying to get him into the wagon. And I'll be honest, he wasn't. I watched the videos. I watched the body cam. I mean, didn't look like he was kicking to me, okay, or kicking much. But when they had held him on the ground before they tried to put him in a paddy wagon, they brought leg shackles. So they put him in. So he's handcuffed and his legs are shackled. And they start trying to toss him into the paddy wagon. He's doing the same thing, wiggling, body weight, this and that, push himself against the vehicle. Boom. Finally, they get in. What do you think so finally they get him in there, okay? And they charged him with escape and resisting arrest, which are fair. What else do you think they charged him with? I mean, any of you know? I mean, if you've watched my channel, you might have picked up on this by now, but maybe not. They charged the poor guy with aggravated assault, which is a felony, very, very serious crime. Very serious crime. Boom, 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 boom. Assault of an officer. Okay, so yes. Sorry, I got ladies to attend to. You know what I mean? Anyway, assault of an in PA, basically what happens is you have simple assault and you have aggravated assault. Simple assault is for minor bodily injuries, punch kicks. Okay, aggravated assault is for serious bodily injuries. But anytime you assault an officer or punch kick an officer, okay, it's an aggravated automatically. That's the law. So if you saw your neighbor and you punched your neighbor, okay, and you got into a little fist fight, the police will charge you with the simple assault. If you do the same exact conduct to a cop, you get an aggravated assault. Well, I watched the videos and my man was not kicking. Like, I just did not see him kicking. The video showed a lot of resisting, but not a lot of kicking. And these officers were claiming that they had substantial harm. And we were going to do a trial today, and 4 officers showed up to testify against him. And And he went back. We went back and forth, do the trial, don't do the trial. So finally we decided to do the guilty plea. And make a long story short, the whole guilty plea got fumbled, okay? And I think it's because my man ultimately didn't want to do it, and the judge rejected the guilty plea. So now we got a new trial date. And I told him after this, I said, dude, he's like, well, you think I can do this, still do the guilty plea? I'm like, let's know. Like, you were so on the fence about it. Now you want to go back and do the guilty plea. Like, let's just do the trial. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the video. Video change used to just be testimony. Now video speaks for itself. People are convicted and acquitted on the video all the time. I mean, honestly, these dash cams, body cams on officers are good for everybody, including the officers. It's good for everybody because now courts can see what happened. So it was just a miserable day in court, though. I mean, his mom wanted him to take the – I mean, it was just crazy. It was a crazy day in court. There was a lot of pressure on him. If he'd have taken the plea, he'd have probably gotten out right away. Now, if we do a trial and he loses, he could get more time. So it's not easy. It's not easy. What was he thinking, though? Already in cuffs and he was going to jail. Yeah, I know. Kelly, thing is, some of these guys, they already been to jail. It just, they don't think. They just react. Emotions, they don't want to go back there. It's like, it's not even a controllable impulse. It's like when the realization comes over you that you're going back there, you may do anything you can to avoid it. It's not rational. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's logical or rational. But it's just fear. It's fear, and the flight or fight just bang hits these guys. I don't, I've never been in the situation, so I don't know. I would say when I've been arrested and I've been taken to the station on like some kid shit back when I was a kid. Okay. But I never truly faced the prospect of going to jail. Here's a real question of opinion. Do you think marijuana will ever be legal or decriminalized in Pennsylvania? Bob, I absolutely do. You have a mayor, a lieutenant mayor, and a lot of the politicians want to see it legalized, and the people do. I honestly believe marijuana is going to be legalized. I don't know if it'll ever hit all 50 states, but it's going to hit at least half and probably more than half. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is there may be like 20 holdouts, and they're just going to say F it because economy. That's why, because economy. I lean towards the libertarian viewpoint. So I'm for the legalization of marijuana. I'm absolutely for the legalization of marijuana. If you guys are you watch Milton Friedman, he was for the legalization of all drugs, and there's actually good arguments for it. Now, I'm not saying I would go that far, but let's talk about prohibition, right? Prior to prohibition, and look, you guys know I'm 75% Italian. Okay. But prohibition created the mafia in this country. The prohibition created organized crime, and not just the Italian mafia. There were Irish, Jewish gangs. I mean, prohibition, when you make something illegal, it creates a black market. Adam Smith talks about this in his book, which I can't think of. When things are legal, then the government can regulate it, the laws can regulate it. And again, I'm not like super pro regulation, but like sometimes you got to have some laws, but regular business folk who will test the quality of something, make sure we'll get involved in the industry. But when you make something illegal, then you can't go to the law for disputes, right? So if somebody robs a liquor store because liquor is legal, the liquor store can call the police and get that person arrested, right? Well, if you're a drug dealer and you're selling marijuana and somebody robs your stash, you can't call the police. Though I've seen that happen. And then they get arrested. Okay, but you can't call the police. Oh, officer, this crew from down the other neighborhood. Yeah, they do it. This crew from the other neighborhood stole my 10 bundles of heroin. Can you come help me? Sure, I'll be right over. And they'll come and arrest him. Yeah, they might go after the other people too. But yeah, people do it though. I've had some case. I had a case. I had a case. I'll tell you this funny case. But I just want to finish my point on prohibition, right? Prohibition of a substance or product drives the sale of the substance underground, and then that underground system is going to have its own court system, its own sense of justice, its own rules, the rules of the street that contribute to the violence and killings in this country. And legalizing marijuana isn't going to wipe it out, okay, but I guarantee it's going to reduce it, because that's a source of income taken away from the cartels and the drug dealers of this country. They're going to have to push heroin and cocaine, and the market's just not as big for those other drugs. Tony Grosso. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the mafia, but if you read a lot of the mafia wasn't necessarily into drugs. But have you watched Boardwalk Empire? And I mean, when we're talking back in the 20s, when a lot of the Italians were coming over here, a lot of the Irish were coming over here, and, you know, they were having trouble getting jobs. They had nowhere else to go. Let's see if this is a client or an actual call. Hi, this is Attorney Joe Pometto. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Attorney Joe Pometto. Who am I speaking with? Joe.
Yeah, who's this?
This original Chihuahua.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but actually, I'm heading out the door now. But since I got you on a live show, I just want to say too that so right now, currently in Hawaii, they're going over this thing where about the false. They kind of debating whether to like false shootings, like protecting your home. So they were saying in the news the other day, because there was an incident a couple months ago where I guess it was like a military housing. Maybe they didn't say that the guy was drunk, but apparently he went into he thought it was his house, so he was going to trying to put into the door, and then the husband, the wife woke him up, and then the husband went shoot the guy. He thought he was trying to break into the house.
So what are they doing, Chihuahuan? They're Chihuahuan. They're thinking about changing the law in Hawaii.
Maybe, yeah. They kind of kicking that around. Like, what is the, you know, because they're trying to put that guy on trial, you know, for protecting his home. But they saying like, so last night they was like, I don't know, some kind of other incident. So now they're saying maybe, if the guy is, you cannot bring a gun to a knife fight. So if the guy give a knife, you cannot shoot him with a gun. If the guy is like your average, like an 80-year-old man, which actually there's a lot of crime in Hawaii now, right? So even this past week, how an 80-year-old guy got robbed. But anyway, so then even if you're an 80-year-old man, and then the guy brings a knife, the old man cannot give a gun to shoot you. That's what they just said like a couple nights ago in the news.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Listen, Chihuahuan, I'm gonna let you go, but I'm gonna address that. Okay, I'm gonna let you go, and then I'm gonna address it. I thank you because I only want to go for a couple more minutes. Thank you for calling in. I'm gonna answer your questions, so stay tuned. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. So yeah, what he's talking about there is basically escalation of force type statutes. You know, I agree with Kelly. I don't understand why every state does not have castle doctrines. So some states, many states, most states, I believe, have a castle doctrine, which essentially allows you, as long as you have a reasonable belief. And this is me. Look, I don't have the statutes in front of me, and there's nuances. Okay. So castle doctrine applies in your home, so don't take this as black and white, okay? We're in black and white discussion all night. Castle doctrine in your home, somebody breaks in, you reasonably believe that, boom, you can shoot them whether they're armed or not. Now, some states do require that you have to have perceived some sort of threat from the individual, okay, before you can just boom, take them out. Okay, that's in the house. Then you have outside of the house where some states require retreat before you stand your ground, okay, or you use lethal force. Other states like Hawaii allow you to stand your ground essentially almost right away. Some of these laws are being rewritten. General self-defense laws out in public do require some escalation of force. So you need to be reasonably believe that you're going to suffer serious bodily harm or death in order to use lethal force. So I don't know, if somebody's throwing peanuts at you and you turn around and shoot them, that's not self-defense. Or even, let's say somebody significantly smaller than you attacks you and you're very large and you didn't have a reasonable belief that you were in fear of serious bodily injury, you can't use lethal injury. You can use the amount of force necessary in order to neutralize that threat. It sounds to me like Hawaii may be rethinking the castle doctrine, which some very liberal states have begun to do. I don't think that that's a good development. I do think escalation of force has its place. I appreciate the castle doctrine. I believe that the castle doctrine, at the very least, can act as a deterrent for individuals breaking into a house. And I'll be like, I don't know, but I mean, some of these countries have lower crime rates, but they have higher rates of home invasions. And I mean, you got to be pretty crazy to break into someone's house in the United States. I mean, you got to be dumb, man, because so many people in this country own guns. But I could see criminals going, to, I don't know, France or some country and where nobody owns guns. I mean, some home invaders could have a field day. Boom, 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 boom. All right, Bob. See you later. I got here, Joe. What are we drinking? Oh, today. Oh, you knew it, Taze, my man. Sorry. He had two drunk men walking to my house at 3 a.m. The fear I felt, they are lucky I did not have a gun in my hand. That's great. That's wild, Kelly. But look at this. Here's that's a weird thing about the recent Geiger verdict. Was that she may have had the benefit of the castle doctrine if she was actually in her house. Now, she believed that she was in her house, but she wasn't in her house. That's an interesting thing to think about there. Kelly, was your door unlocked? Yeah, lock your door. Cheers. Every house, and I believe in the future this will happen. I believe houses will come equipped with security. Well, a lot of houses already come equipped with security, but every house should become equipped with security and video. I mean, it really can go so far to help people out. Back to my original point again about organized crime is when you make something illegal, whether it be drugs, gambling, or prostitution, it's going to go underground. Bob made the comment that, the mafia wasn't into drugs, and that's true to a certain degree, though I believe a lot of the 5 families in New York City actually were into drugs, and a lot of the other gangs were. But there were a lot of them that only did, prostitution and numbers, et cetera, et cetera. The funny thing now is I wonder if the mafia is really taking a hit with the legalization of sports gambling online and really the push for legalization of gambling as a country. The funny thing about that too is just 10, 20 years ago, there was a big push to outlaw online poker. And now there's a push to legalize online sports gambling. So really weird. My lock was kind of useless, so saw them walk past the window and jumped up to the door to see if it was locked. As I was turning it, they pushed the door open. I have 2 security guards, Smith & Wesson. Yeah, I mean, imagine if, let's do a thought experiment here. Imagine if every person in America had a handgun and was trained with it. And so let's say not even every person. Let's say every home in America had a handgun and the people were trained with it. Okay. if every person in America had a gun and they were trained with it, Kelly, you're gonna be a moderator going forward. Then don't you think a lot of criminals are going to be a lot less likely to go and start breaking into my houses, breaking into the house? May have used it in the first couple of seconds. Well, you know, I don't care. I mean, drunk people shouldn't be walking into the wrong houses. I mean, if you can't handle your liquor, don't drink that much. Okay, everyone, long day, long night. Oh, I'm going to start putting up, I'm going to have some merchandise. Take a look, just some funny t-shirts, coffee cups, stuff like that. I already got 2 t-shirts up. You can look at them in my descriptions. I'm going to buy a couple of them so I could wear them on the show. It's just for fun. If you want one, buy one. It helps the show out and you get something cool. What else? Yeah, I'm gonna have coffee cups. They're coming. The t-shirts were easy to design. If you have, leave in the description if you can think of funny phrases to put on the coffee cups or t-shirts, because that's what I'm going for. Some stuff to entertain. I already picked out a couple. You can see in my last video has it. I'll put it in the description of a funny t-shirt. I'm also going to get some designs and you know, just for fun, that stuff will be out there. Just wanted to let you know. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. I have a Patreon as well. If you like my content and you get on the Patreon, you unlock special features and tase auditors. I know, man. I know. Well, leave me some stuff in the comments, okay? But if you get on my Patreon, unlock special features and also support the show. So everybody do a quick same time sip with me. I have here, you know, my cancer-causing acid Diet Coke. Same time sip. Cheers. Good night. See everybody soon.